Hey, what is up everyone? It's the guy here, and welcome to episode 7 of my hardcore TerraFirmaRescue Let's Play. The Let's Play series where I play in hardcore mode without collecting quest rewards, all in a pretty darn hard mod pack. But without further ado, let's get into this episode. Today's episode, we're going to be making that Bloomery that I failed to make last episode. So really just rushing to iron and touching up on some of the things that will get us there along the way. But before we begin, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who's been supporting this series so far and been watching. It means quite a lot to me to have people enjoying the work that I produce, and I'm definitely learning a lot about just making YouTube videos in general, and I'm going to share a little bit of some of the secrets and just general lessons I've learned about making these videos and how they differ from what I've done previously. Some of the largest improvements since my first episode involve just how I'm recording things. If I switch over to display capture on my OBS, you can see what I'm using here. Here we have OBS, and what I did before was I would use the microphone inside OBS while I'm recording. So what would happen was the audio of the game audio would merge with my voice, and so when I was doing noise removal from all the background noise that's here in the kitchen area that I'm have my setup in, it would distort the audio there. So that's my first lesson that I learned, was to separate that out. So now I use Audacity to record. So here I am recording in Audacity. That way, not only is this separating the voice channels, but it also, in Audacity, you have the ability to sort of do noise removal selectively, which is a lot better, and then I can bring that into Davinci Resolve, whereas in Davinci Resolve, I can only really do it to an entire channel per se. So that's an improvement on the audio side. And of course, if you noticed at the beginning of this episode compared to all of my previous episodes, you might have noticed that the quality was a little better, and that's because I changed the settings in my OBS from stream quality to high quality. So that was an oversight on my part. But with that out of the way, you should not have to close your eyes after a little bit of that horrendous low quality content that was out there. So hopefully that will improve the experience a little bit. I also invested in an alt. If you look carefully right here, you might see some particles coming off from the distance over there, and that's because that is my alt that I've invested in to make these time lapses. See, that's my alt. Name is Theguyhere. What a shocker. And they don't have a skin, unlike for some reason on my alt screen where I don't have a skin at all here. My alt does not have a skin, so they are in fact Alex. But what I do is I just give my alt invisibility. There we go. So I give my alt invisibility permanently, so they can sort of just be out of sight a little bit, and if they're high enough away, then you won't notice it, but they will have a nice view of the area where I am working. So it makes it a lot better for doing all those time lapses versus first person. But I did find a way to make first person sort of montages a little better than just a time lapse, and that's through a lot of extensive editing, which is pretty fun. I'm enjoying that, but it does take a lot of work. So those are some improvements on the video side. And of course, last but not least, just a little bit more planning, because I can't really ramble on in YouTube videos versus something like maybe streaming or my bi-weekly podcast that I do, which if you're interested in, go check out on my channel. But having planning is a lot more, makes the videos a lot more refined and more enjoyable to watch for other people. Of course, to build that Bloomery, we're going to need to go and get more tin or cassiterite, which will be somewhere far over there where there are cassiterite nuggets, which means there are cassiterite ores underneath. But in order to do that, I need to prepare. So, of course, brought along some empty ceramic vessels to put all my items. This is a little backpack. Also here I've got some planks, which will serve as blocks that aren't affected by gravity, which will be useful. Here I have some beams, support beams to keep things from caving in, as well as grass rope, which basically acts like a ladder, but a little cheaper. Here, of course, got some sandwiches, some water, torches. I probably need more, but I ran out of sticks. And remember that wasted black bronze? Well, with the sheets, I can actually make the bronze chest plate. So if I search up black bronze chest plate and search up how it's made, you put it in the anvil to finish it off. But in order to do that, the unfinished black bronze chest plate is made from the first stage of it and welding it together with that double sheet. This is made from working that double sheet. So those two double sheets were put into use here. So that's at least some benefit there. And here we have a wooden shield. Now shields work by sort of just protecting from projectiles and I think also from melee attacks, but not with as high of a degree of chance. But you can see if you're holding a weapon, you can right click and sort of blocks with the shield. And it's going to be useful when facing other projectile mobs. But the reason why I wanted a shield and made it out of wood instead of something like metal is because wood is cheap. The shield for wood, all it is just 4 logs and an axe, and it's got 400 durability versus something like black bronze, which we have access to. The durability is only 800, and it's not that great, not that big of a jump. It's actually 600, I think. Wrought iron is 800, so that's why I'm going with the wood. But of course, I'm gonna go head off to a mine, so I'm gonna take a little nap, and once the monsters are gone, head over and I'll show you how to do the mining. Now, thankfully, I marked where I found my cassiterite nuggets because I've collected them all and I have no clue where they were. So this waypoint was very helpful here, but I think it was roughly around this area. So I want to find about where it was centered. So I think it was about here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place something like this here. So that'll be the place where my rope can hang from. This way I don't need to use sticks, which is a bit expensive here for ladders. Now how these ropes work is that you can sort of climb up this, and once I dig down, it'll make a little more sense here, but the easy thing about this is that you can click on any piece of rope and it'll add another stick of rope underneath it. So it makes it easy to build with, and it works like a ladder where you go up against it and you can climb up. So it's very useful. So that's why I used a gravity block, gravity resistant block like acacia planks, wooden planks to do this here. So what we're going to do is just dig down here and occasionally sample to see if there's a sample of something useful. See, there was some saltpeter, which I'm not interested in. I'm interested in the cassiterite, which is probably a lot further down. So I'm going to need to get to that through digging through quite a bit of rock. But better start this process now. So because there's not much daylight here. So let's start digging. Alright, so it seems like we've dug into a cave here. So it doesn't seem like there are any mobs in the minimap, but this means it'll be easier to find things like this cassiterite, which unfortunately is poor. But on the other hand, cave-ins will be pretty rampant because of the fact that, well, there's no reason for me to put up supports, really, unless I find a place that has a lot of stuff and I want to put up supports. But because there's no supports, there's less of a reason to put up supports. Cave-ins might be likely, so I'll need to be careful here and put up supports and light up the place as well. But hey, we got to a place pretty easily without any using too much of my pickaxe, which is running out of durability, so that's good. So time to start mining, I guess. Alright, I've got all the materials needed to make our Bloomery. So over here we have the copper and the tin that we need. And here's just a little bit of tin that I want to finish off a quest here for scales and scale weights. Is basically a way to precisely cut your food instead of using a knife, which only can split the food in half. This will precisely cut it into ounces, but that's just a vanity quest per se. The main quest here is to get that Bloomery going, but just to show you what this alloy calculator does. If you toss in, let's say, what I wanted to use here for making that bronze, you'll notice that it shows you bronze and it shows you the percentages. So it's very useful when you have a good concise way of putting all of that in. But if you're using a lot of different types and it can get a little hairy, then yeah, you want to avoid that. But what I'm going to do is toss in the tin first because I want to pull out an ingot and not be bad here. So I just want to put all of these in here and get this lit up. So once I get this all smelted up, I'll show you how that Bloomery works, and we can start with finally getting into the Iron Age. At last, we now have the Bloomery. So this, all we have to do is place it right here, and that Bloomery block is now in place. So a Bloomery normally doesn't need all of this. It only really needs to go up to this height right here where the ladder stops. That's where we'll be throwing in our charcoal and our iron ores. How this works is we first need to take some of this charcoal, and remember it has to be TerraFirmaRescue charcoal, or TFR charcoal here. What you do is just right click here up until it hits 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go. Now we have 8 charcoal deposited, and we can throw in 24 ores and 24 charcoal. So here we have 24 charcoal. So now I have to grab 24 ores and climb up here to toss them in. Now, it doesn't matter how much is in each piece of ore. All that matters is that it's 24 of them, so that's why we want to have as rich of ore as possible to get the most out of it. But I only had easy access to normal, which is fine. It's a decent, but you don't really want to be going with poor or even those little nuggets on the ground, because that's just a waste of charcoal. So what you want to do now is just right click here and bam, there we go. It's now going to be cooking for about 6 hours, and once that's done, we will be able to process some iron. So that's a big achievement there we have. So we'll be getting to iron, and I want to try to replace this with a wrought iron anvil as soon as possible. That way we can get to some iron tools and some of the more advanced things. I just realized forgot to collect the quest here, but once this is done, I'll pick it up anyways. So there we go. Now we're into the Iron Age. Alright, the Bloomery is done. So what we do when it's done is just open up that Bloomery, and you can see there's some raw iron bloom. Just mine that up with your pickaxe. Boom, now we have the iron, and I'm actually gonna pick this up. So now that we have our raw iron bloom, what we have to do is heat this back up in this forge here, and thankfully with iron we don't really need to worry about it melting unless we start using the bellows here to heat up the forge. But all we do is just heat this up until it's at a workable temperature, and then we can start working on it here. But for now, I'm going to toss in more of the charcoal because we're going to need to keep this running as long as possible to get all our iron made, because we are going to need a lot of iron for our anvil, as well as just for some tools we want, for example this pickaxe, and some other things in the quest once we unlock it. So let me toss these in here, and a quick note is that each time we use this at a max level, it's going to take half a stack of charcoal, because 8 of these will be going down here, and 24 will be plopped into this column along with 24 ore. So each time it uses half a stack, which is why it's not really that much if you think about it, right? All of this, it'll only last maybe, this will last 8, 9, here is 10, so that's about 10 times going through, which is a decent amount, but that's why if you want to have this continually running for your early machines and all of that, and making armor, etc., you're really going to need to have this many coke ovens running if you don't want to use the normal TFC way of getting charcoal, which I think is just inefficient and a waste of resources. But let me get this started, and we'll get the iron refined, we'll get that new anvil, and then we can start on some more exciting propositions. All right, now with the blooms all nice and hot, almost melting, but as you can see, without a forge, it won't go past that white, which means it won't melt, so that's really nice with iron. So we're just gonna take this out, and what we're gonna do first is we're gonna refine this. So the operation here is we need to get to 3 hits as the last, so we're going to shrink this quite a bit, all the way up to here, and then we're going to hit this down, all the way down. Now, I've forgotten what the optimal recipe is, but that's one way to do it. Now we have a refined iron bloom. What we're going to do now is just split it up into its even pieces. So we're going to shrink this all the way up until here, and I believe we can do an upset. Nope, went a little too far. Punch it, there we go. So now we have it split into 6. Now this I've memorized. When we refine this into the final ingot, we're gonna shrink this all the way up until here, then upset, medium hits, and then 2 light hits. So the recipe for an optimal refining of the iron bloom is to shrink it all the way until you're almost there. Then we're gonna upset, medium hit, and 2 light hits. So it can get a bit repetitive, but you'll eventually find the most optimal, especially for something you do so often, like refining these ingots. For the blooms, it's a little bit harder, and I've forgotten how to do the most optimal path, but with time, you'll be able to find what the most optimal path is. But maybe in the beginning, you have to go through an entire hammer to refine that 1 iron bloom, but that's okay. It's a learning process, and of course, you can search up in the wiki how to get to the most efficient path. I'm going to keep 1 coal in here because we are going to need to melt it, weld them together to get to the anvil. Aha! Here we are. We now have the wrought iron anvil. So let me collect this and find a way to do this. I'm gonna have to put these in the chest, which thankfully these Minecraft chests can hold these super heavy items. So let me collect this, and now we have an upgrade to our anvil. So that is quite welcome there. So now I can make some tools that I desperately need, like the pickaxe, also a shovel that's metal, and a scythe, which we will need to make some sustainable forestry, since I don't really want to deforest all the time over there, and it's getting a bit further away whenever I want to get to the woods. So I'll start making those tools, but now we are officially in the Iron Age. I should probably pick this up to pick up the quest. But yeah, from here, we can make a blast furnace, which is why I had all of this set up right here. So a blast furnace, the recipe here is that I need a blast furnace, a crucible, and bellows. So the crucible and bellows I have over there. I also need at least 12 wrought iron sheets, but I will need a lot of wrought iron sheets, which means a lot of wrought iron. That's why I want to get to a rich deposit there. And fire bricks is just mortar plus fire brick, which is made from fire clay, so we'll need a lot of that. And this is pretty simple. It's just some 4 of these wrought iron and a crucible. So actually I might need another crucible because I need one to make this here. But of course, that will probably not be this episode. It'll take quite too much time. But we are on our way to getting to the Iron Age, and you'll also notice some of the quests over here. There's different things, like, for example, you can make some wire now, which is pretty cool, and glue. So those are all pretty important for later on, I believe. But this is getting close to the furthest I've gone in a TFR run, so we are getting near our limit there. But these are ready, and of course the bloom here is also done. so I'll be able to keep working with iron. So we will continue working with this, and whenever I've got things built out and I've started working on that sustainable farm, the tree farm, I'll get back to you all. So as I prepare for my tree farm, we're going to be needing the scythe. And the reason why we need the scythe is because it will let us harvest leaves a lot faster. And we will need these leaves for their saplings. Of course, punching by hand or even with an axe, I believe that's a bit faster. No, it's not. So we can't, just punching it by hand is not quite efficient. So what we're going to do is use this scythe and see what it does, because it mines out basically a 3x3x3 block of leaves centered at where you're mining it at. So this will be a lot faster, and hopefully this will get us some saplings here, because I haven't gotten many acacia saplings. So I want to be able to replant some of these so that I can sustainably harvest these without going to the deadlands, which, to be fair, the trees were already burned from the lava, but I would be able to to have a source of wood that's quite nearby. So I'll be mining for some wood and for some saplings, also sticks, which I've ran out of, so be important here. Alright, I may have lied a little bit about the tree farm. I thought that we could get saplings from the acacia leaves, but it seems that either the chance is really low or none to get saplings there. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to just deforest that burnt area to get wood, but it's still a good source of wood, so I think I can stick to that for now. But I think this is probably going to have to wrap up this episode. We got the Iron Age stuff, so iron anvil here, and we got the Bloomery going. We just really need to collect some resources to move on to the next stage, to get the blast furnace, and to get a whole bunch of other things going, including the fire bricks for that blast furnace, and just all the other accessories to make all of this happen. All of this stuff here too, the automated bellows pusher here, and all of this to build up this industrial sector, and of course mining out some of that smooth stone to finish this build, and probably some pumpkins as well, but I'll do that off camera, so I won't belabor this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this probably a quicker episode, But next episode, we're going to get into some of that steel and finish up building this, and probably some glass too, since I think we need that steel to grind down coal to make all the things needed for glass. But anyways, that'll wrap up this episode. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, consider liking it, and if you think this series is something that others would enjoy, then maybe consider subscribing. And hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're playing along, hopefully some of these tips that I've shown are helping you as well. Take care, stay humble, and I'll see you all in the next episode. Bye-bye.